It feels like just yesterday, really. Reality TV icon Kim Woodburn was making headlines. Sharp wit, those unapologetic opinions. And now, well, now we're discussing the news of her passing. She was 83. Welcome to DRM News Global. Today, we're taking a deep dive using the collection of news articles and reports you've shared with us to focus specifically on the life and the legacy of Kim Woodburn.
That's right. And this isn't, a standard biography recap. We're carefully looking through these specific sources you provided, covering the announcement of her death, her career highs, some pretty big controversies, and also some very personal struggles she talked about publicly.
Yeah, our aim here is to pull out the key facts, the insights from these particular reports, to give you a clear picture of the woman known first as the Queen of Clean, and then later for that really fiery reality TV personality. Let's see what these sources tell us about her journey.
Okay, so the immediate news, the reason we're looking at this now, is the announcement of her death. The core fact across all these reports: Kim Woodburn died at 83.
And the announcement came the day after she passed, June 17th. It mentioned her death followed a short illness, as they put it.
Her management released a statement, expressed immense sadness, obviously, and they described her in quite glowing terms: incredibly kind, caring, charismatic, and strong. Interesting words, given her sometimes spiky public image.
They also made a point of mentioning her husband, Peter, called him her soulmate, said he was heartbroken.
Right. And the statement also touched on their pride in her achievements, her career, And it finished with a request for privacy for Peter and her close friends. Made it clear no more details about the illness would be coming out.
Which we have to respect, of course. But the reports do offer a little context about her health recently.
Yeah, there are mentions she'd canceled some work commitments lately.
Yeah.
And apparently social media posts from her own account back in March. They said she needed to get better, couldn't do personalized videos because of a health issue, sent love to her followers.
So some hints were there, maybe, but nothing specific, and that's how it stays. The sources also note her last public appearance wasn't actually that long ago.
That's right. She was seen attending the Vivian's funeral on January 27th. So she was still out and about relatively recently.
It's quite poignant, but to really understand the Kim Woodburn these reports describe, we need to rewind a bit. Go back to how she first entered public life, because it wasn't exactly glamorous, was it?
No, far from it. The reports are clear. She started working as a cleaner when she was just 16.
16, wow.
Yeah, and the sources add some color to that. She
Yeah.
talked about being a live-in cleaner, earning barely anything, £2.10 a week is the figure mentioned.
Yeah.
And she used this phrase, didn't she, that she felt like just a piece of flesh.
Just a piece of flesh. That's
Yeah.
quite a stark description. Really paints a picture of feeling devalued, maybe exploited even.
Absolutely. It tells you a lot about those early experiences. So the question is, how do you go from that to being on television?
Exactly. What was the path?
Well, according to these reports, the big break came later, when she was working as a professional cleaner down in Kent. Channel 4, it seems, was casting for a new show. They were looking for someone with a, get this, funny temperament,
A funny temperament. That's quite specific.
isn't it? So they apparently approached a cleaning company, and that company suggested Kim.
And that led straight to How Clean Is Your House, the show that really put her on the map. Her and Aggie McKenzie going into these incredibly messy homes.
And the sources really point to the dynamic of the show. It wasn't just cleaning tips. It was her catty comments, as the reports put it, directed at the homeowners. That confrontation was key.
And people loved it. The reports call it a surprise hit, which it really was when you think about it. Ran for 6 series, 2003 to 2009.
And the ratings were huge. The sources mentioned up to 4 million viewers sometimes, at one point apparently matching Big Brother. For a show about scrubbing toilets, essentially, that tells you something about her screen presence.
It really does. And her whole style, that no-nonsense, almost bossy approach, was cemented there. There's that anecdote the sources mentioned about her inspecting the Guardian newspaper offices.
Oh yeah, that's a classic example. Apparently it was a publicity thing, but she went in there, guns blazing, lines like, "It's sheer laziness." And, the famous one, "If your mom could see this, she'd smack your bum."
That's the Kim Woodburn persona people first knew, that mix of domestic authority and sharp tongue.
And that's exactly where she got the nickname, the Queen of Clean. It wasn't just about knowing how to clean, it was the attitude.
Right. Which is interesting because although that name stuck, her career took a completely different turn after How Clean Is Your House, finished in 2009. She moved squarely into reality TV.
Yeah, the cleaning cloths were put away, on screen at least. Her first big reality gig, according to these reports, was I'm a Celebrity. Get Me Out of Here. That same year, 2009.
And she did really well. Finished runner-up, didn't she, to Gino D'Acampo.
She did, which kind of proved she could capture public attention, even without the cleaning theme. She was just compelling TV in herself.
But then came Celebrity Big Brother in 2017, and the sources really mark this one as a huge moment for her. The thing that reignited fascination, maybe controversy too. She came third in that one.
Definitely. Her time in that house is consistently described in these reports using terms like fiery confrontations and unfiltered commentary. It wasn't just a bit of drama. It was, like, central to that whole series. Very memorable moments.
And beyond those big reality show appearances, the sources remind us she became a regular face on daytime TV too. Guest spots on Loose Women this morning.
Yeah, and she popped up elsewhere, too. Celebrity Come Dine With Me, contributing to Big Brother spin-off shows. She kept herself in the public eye, largely by just being herself, it seems, speaking her mind.
And that definitely earned her a reputation for being, well, outspoken, to put it mildly sometimes.
Right. The sources give examples, calling Gino D'Acampo her jungle campmate a full of himself little pig afterwards. Or describing Louis Walsh as nasty and two-faced.
She didn't hold back, and she even apparently criticized TV executives for hiring reality stars as presenters, which is maybe a bit ironic given her own path.
Maybe a little, but very characteristic of her directness, just saying what she thought.
But perhaps the biggest, most talked about controversy highlighted in these reports is the feud with Colleen Nolan.
Oh, yes. That looms large in the coverage. Started, apparently, during their time together on Celebrity Big Brother, but it didn't end there.
No, it really escalated. The sources detail that infamous reunion appearance on Loose Women in 2018. It ended with Kim, well, the reports say she stormed off set.
And the reaction to that moment was massive.
Yeah.
The sources cite the number of complaints to Ofcom, the broadcast regulator here in the UK. Thousands. Some reports say over 7,000, others over 3,000. Either way, a huge number.
It really shows how much that particular incident struck a nerve with viewers. Whether they were siding with her or against her, people had strong feelings.
Exactly. She provoked a reaction. But, digging deeper into these sources, there's another side to her story that emerges. A much darker, more painful side relating to her past. Things she chose to share later in life.
This is where it gets incredibly difficult. The reports detail revelations from her autobiography, published around 2006, 2007, titles like Unbeaten or Beaten.
Yeah, and some truly harrowing content. The most widely reported detail is about her having a stillborn baby when she was in her early 20s, and she revealed that she buried the baby's body herself in a park in Liverpool.
Just devastating. The reports mention the police looked into it after the book came out, Merseyside Police, but decided against legal action.
And she spoke about it on a BBC show, Heaven and Earth, apparently. Talked about feeling completely alone, her boyfriend had left, the shame she felt back then. Said she still thought about her son. It's hard to even comprehend that level of private grief and trauma.
And it wasn't just that tragedy. The sources also talk about a very difficult childhood. Being sent away to boarding school with her sister. She was only 3 or 4.
Yeah, and her description of it is brutal. Said the nuns running it were cruel, that they beat them, were cold. No kindness, she said.
Terrible. And she apparently blamed her parents, said she'd never forgive them for the cruelty they experienced there.
So a really tough start. And then later, around 2017, coinciding with that CBB appearance that brought her back into the spotlight, she revealed something else.
Yes, the reports mentioned she disclosed she'd been sexually abused by her father, starting from a young age.
So you take all of that together, the abusive father, the cruel boarding school, the stillbirth, and secret burial. The sources really lead you to think about how those experiences must have shaped the person she became.
Absolutely. That resilience she had, maybe the directness, even that fiery persona sometimes. It seems possible, based on these accounts, that they were connected to surviving such profound hardship. It adds so much complexity.
It really does. That queen of clean image, all about external order and control. You see it in a completely different light when you read about a past that involves so much chaos and pain, so much lack of control.
And looking now at how people reacted to the news of her death, you see echoes of all these different facets.
Yeah, the reports say social media was flooded with tributes from fans.
And the descriptions used are quite telling, aren't they? Absolute icon, legend, people still calling her the Queen of Clean, talking about the entertainment she gave.
And that phrase keeps coming up, taking no crap. That clearly resonated. Someone called her a ball of energy.
But what's interesting, as the sources note, is that some tributes weren't just purely gushing. They acknowledged she could be polarizing, controversies, the sharp edges, as one report put it, but they still expressed sadness and hope she was at peace.
Which suggests people recognize the complexity, maybe. Saw the whole picture, or at least parts of it.
And there was that one really touching story cited in the sources. A fan who received a personalized video message from her when they were depressed. Said it meant so much, they still watch it.
Yeah, that points to a different side again, doesn't it? Maybe closer to how her management described her.
Exactly. Let's remind ourselves of those words. Kind, caring, charismatic, and strong. It suggests that behind the public persona, or maybe alongside it, there was warmth there, especially for those who connected with her more personally.
So looking at all this material, all these reports, why does this story matter to you, the listener? I think her journey, as laid out here, is pretty remarkable. From hardship and obscurity, earning pennies as a cleaner, and doing these awful personal traumas.
To becoming this huge TV personality, famous, often controversial, who eventually chose to share some of that deep pain publicly. It's quite a trajectory.
And when you think about her enduring presence, the different roles she played in public life, the strong reactions she provoked, both positive and negative, and now the response to her passing, it really does make you reflect, doesn't it? On celebrity, on how we view public figures, and on the hidden stories people carry.
We've covered a lot today, drawing directly from these sources. The news of her death, that early life cleaning, her surprising rise as the Queen of Clean, the shift to reality TV stardom, the controversies like the Nolan feud.
And then delving into that difficult past, she revealed the abuse, the loss, the childhood trauma, and considering how that might connect to her public persona. And finally, how she's being remembered now.
It leaves us with a final thought, perhaps, something provocative based on these sources. How does someone manage to carry such profound hidden trauma, the abuse, the secret burial, while simultaneously creating and projecting a public image like the Queen of Clean, so focused on outward perfection, order, control?
Yeah, what does that stark contrast between the internal reality she eventually shared and that external face she presented for so long tell us about coping mechanisms, about resilience, or maybe even about the conscious construction of personas in the glare of the public eye? It's a fascinating and quite poignant question to consider.
A lot to think about indeed. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive here on DRM News Global.